In Chinese mythology, there's a monster called Hyundun, a blind, deaf, faceless demon. Hyundun is chaos, evil, corrupting and polluting all that it touches. But for me, what's most scary about Hyundun's true evil isn't what it does, but that it can't see itself. It doesn't know that it's a monster, just like you. These cryptic, prophetic words were conveyed by Erwin Hong, the now former associate of Rock and a major part of her now fleeting enterprise. The quote describes Rock's poisonous effect on not just Erwin's life and business, but everything and everyone that has crossed her path, while emphasizing her willful ignorance to these evil outcomes. Such proved to be true with her own son, Kanan, who had been so devastated by Rock's past transgressions that it inspired him to return that evil in kind with a bullet. In this video, we'll break down Raising Kanan's Season 4 finale and analyze its climactic conclusion. Before we begin, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and bell notification to immediately receive these videos. Also, big thank you to all of my Patreon family. If you'd like to be the next one, hit the link pinned to the comments below. And lastly, a spoiler alert is now in effect for all things power. Here we go. Episode 410 finds Rock going through a series of unfortunate events. She's fresh off discovering that her son has been colluding with her open enemy, Unique, and starts off the episode confronting Unique for the violation. After several haymakers of disrespect and sexual innuendo hurled from the resurrected hustler, Rock promises him that everyone's family can be touched if that's the game he wants to play, even his. This tense standoff set the stage for the inevitable war brewing between the two since Unique rose from that coma to come to fruition, jumping to conclusions like Super Mario jumps mushrooms. Rock would dish out immediate orders to her renewed first lieutenant and baby brother Lulu, who seemingly recaptured his role alongside his beloved sister from the earlier seasons and simultaneously replaced Marvin to track down Neek's baby mother and child in preparation for the grisly events to come. Every event after the Neek exchange would result in a negative domino effect for the beleaguered Queenpin. First, she met with Erwin, who unapologetically informed her that their business arrangement was over, and no threat made against his person would compromise his position. Then, she met with Jukebox at the latter's request, and instead of sharing their usual fellowship of joy, laughter, and encouragement, the meeting quickly turns federal, as Juke casts shadows of doubt and aspersions onto her once trusted aunt in the case of Famous and Crystal's deaths. These insinuations hit Rock in the chest and shake her to the emotional core, as Jukebox was one of the only Thomas family members who had never turned against her. Throughout the series, Rock and Juke maintained a beautiful relationship and bond as the only female representatives of the family on good terms. However, now that, along with Rock's integrity, morality, and reputation were being called to the altar of judgment by her own niece, and the melancholy state it placed Rock in was glaringly obvious on her face. Also, Juke said in response to Rock's criticism that she'd rather be like Marvin than Rock. This is because Marvin, though clumsy and flawed at times, is open and vulnerable, while Rock is perceived as secretly wicked. Remember, Jukebox said, quote, "I see you," during their semi-heated exchange, which is a nod to Erwin's cryptic quote, Hyundun's true evil isn't what it does, but that it can't see itself. So by Juke asserting that she truly sees Rock, what she's really acknowledging is that she clearly sees her evil ways, and she's no longer ignoring the obvious in the name of family. The next blow to Rock's inner circle came in the form of her big brother and demoted number 2 in command, Marvin, who Rock was rightfully upset with after our favorite uncle's botched relationship with their Italian partner Stefano caused the capo to sever all ties with the Thomas family. This, along with Unique's murder of David, completely stalled Rock's distribution leg of her organization, as Stefano had agreed to provide a supplementary option for Rock in light of David's demise. This meant that she had a brand new connect and an overflow of product without the necessary means to move any of it. This dynamic alone didn't initiate the ugly fallout to come between Rock and Marvin, but it was her refusal to acknowledge her own faults while highlighting his that led to their argument and subsequent discontinuation of their relationship. Rock elevated her indictments of Marvin, and in her defense, the last thing a person wants to hear when they're correcting someone's wrongs is that they've been wrong before too. However, Rock's air of perfection during the scolding, as if her dish has never stunk a day in her life, was more than her big brother could bear, and it added fire to the gasoline spewing from his sister's lips. Unbeknownst to Marvin, however, is that by highlighting his sister's shortcomings in the midst of his own, he was also trying to get that faceless demon, i.e. the Hyundun spirit, to see itself, but to no avail. Behind the veil of Rock's crumbling inner circle and associations, that brewing war was given the official green light courtesy of Phil Russo, who all but unhooked Unique's chain and allowed him to violently make his presence felt, following his own brutal statement via stabbing the previously untouchable Stefano Marchetti. A few major caveats were exposed during the friendly portion of Russo and Marchetti's clandestine meeting in the park. For starters, notice how the two men met during the daytime in open space, leaving any attempts at assassination out of sight, out of mind, and most definitely out of reason. We learned that the true culprit behind Sal's demise back in Season 3 was Russo himself, who desired to sit in the big chair and conspired with Stefano to achieve a mutually beneficial outcome, as Sal was perceived to be too messy to remain in power across the bridge. But you know what they say about absolute power? It corrupts absolutely. Russo had grown weary of kissing the ring of New York's big fish, and most importantly, as revealed per their conversation, Stefano was the only one who could potentially expose Russo as a rat to his own organization. Moreover, he threatened to do as much as the exchange progressed. Thus, Russo's only option was to remove that lingering threat to his existence, which simultaneously recaptured his personal respect and that of Jersey. Where he fucked up, though, was not finishing the job. Rest assured, though wounded and seemingly bleeding out to death, Stefano isn't dead. The latter dialogue bearing his name alludes to that much. This would explain Russo's reckless signing of Neek's crash-out bill, so to speak. By Unique cementing Rock's destruction and ensuring her demise, it would also cause major issues for an embattled Stefano already fighting for his life and now territory as well. Once Rock got wind of the assassination attempt on her former cohort, she immediately went on the offensive, understanding that Unique no longer had a reason for restraint. This led to the kidnapping of his baby mother and child, a checkmate that'll inevitably spill over to next season, assuming Rock makes it to next season, that is, because the conclusion of 410 just put the immediate future of the Queen Pen in irreversible jeopardy. After hearing from Jukebox that a black woman was seen leaving the premises where Crystal was terminated, an apoplectic Kanan set out to do something he should have done a long time ago, according to his own lamentation. Though the war is officially on between Unique and Rock, and her businesses and henchmen have garnered several attacks, the Queen Pen holds the ultimate trump card with the acquisition of Pernessa and Neek Jr. This places her in the victory position prior to being confronted by an emotionally combustible Kanan at gunpoint. Considering the many parallels derived from Kanan's final standoff with Rock and Tariq's final standoff with Ghost, one to note is the fact that both Rock and Ghost were in the midst of victory before meeting their certain defeat in the face of death at the hands of their own children. Ghost was in the midst of his best day ever, having finally dodged prosecution and won the lieutenant governor's seat for New York State. He had severed all lingering threats to his pending happiness and had even established a new connection with the alluring Ramona, a woman primed for his future and, most importantly, ignorant to his past. All of this was extinguished by his transgressions against his own son, sins that he couldn't repent for nor acknowledge fully, which also aligns with the cryptic Irwin quote of the faceless demon unable to see its own evil nature. Rock, inversely, had been experiencing her own worst day ever, or string of days, before finally securing a win through the aforementioned kidnapping. That small victory was quickly overthrown by the surprise confrontation with Kanan, who was convinced that Rock wasn't only after his best friend and girlfriend, but his happiness as a whole. Rock's cardinal sin against her son was also her greatest strength in the streets, a cold killer who kept the game first and everything else behind it. It was her callous display of execution and deception that kept Kanan in a state of disbelief in these recent murders, and all it took was the right set of circumstances to cement those calluses plastered on Kanan's heart. His inability to reconcile Rock's controversial decisions with maternal love while yearning for independence and believing every piece of rhetoric that aligns with his delusions speaks to his building ego and simmering narcissism as much as it does to his novice disposition. Simply put, Kanan's primed for leadership in his own right, yet still green enough to be controlled and swayed by emotions over logic. But it has to be this way though. Kanan coming into his own always meant that he'd have to commit an unpardonable act that would thrust him into the iciness necessary to thrive on his own. And that cold-hearted nature won't just be limited to his mother, but anyone who chooses to cross him in a similar fashion. As for whether he truly took her off the board or not, there's a few lingering possibilities. Remember, Rock's impromptu confrontation with her son directly coincides with her open war with Unique, who just hit her establishments and tried to kill her estranged brother. Neek knows where Rock lives, and due to their previous situationship, likely knows how to enter the compound undetected. This was displayed to us this season when Neek popped up in Rock's kitchen eating a bowl of Ben & Jerry's on Easter weekend. If Kanan opts not to kill his mother, he'll likely attempt to kill an unidentified invader lurking in the shadows, itching for an opportunity to take out Unique's series-long op. Another likely scenario is that Rock gets shot by Unique or one of his henchmen, and Kanan has to execute the threat before possibly calling for help to save Rock's fleeting life, or leaving her to be discovered by Marvin, who would likely be headed her way in spite of their previous fight, as he's been attacked and would rightfully assume Rock would be attacked as well. I've seen where people think Jukebox could have been the one who takes the shot against Kanan, stopping him from killing his mother and her once favorite aunt. Although plausible from a certain angle, I don't think that's likely. It's either Kanan kills an intruder or attempts to kill his mother and she survives. In either case, a definitive line has been drawn in the sand following the events of 410. Interestingly enough, after Kanan takes the shot, the scene cuts to black and Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones begins to play. This is a brilliant selection by the music supervisors and showrunners because it perfectly illustrates Kanan's official induction into the darkness, and worse yet, whose spirit he's now operating in. The song lends credence to those final moments playing out as intended to the naked eye, with Kanan killing Rock and never looking back. The subsequent interviews by Sasha Penn and Patina Miller, Raising Kanan's showrunner and lead actress respectively, doesn't leave much room for ambiguity either, as Rock is being painted in the past tense where a future once resided. As sad as Rock's exit would be from Power's greatest spinoff, sorry Book 2, it would make perfect story sense. If you follow Raising Kanan from the very beginning to the 9th inning, there were always allusions to Kanan being the only force strong enough to challenge Rock's mortality, and the more insidious her behavior became, the more this sentiment was buffered, at least in this commentator's mind. Though Rock, Lou, Marvin, and other characters have stolen the show throughout the series' life, it's still about Kanan, his development, progression, and descent into the darkness, and how he became Power's most incendiary villain. Don't get me wrong, it would definitely suck if she's gone, but it would also make sense to the story as a whole. That's a big if though, no doubt. But what are your thoughts on all of this? What did you think of the season 4 finale and the season at large? Be sure to drop me your opinions in the comments below. As always, I thank you for watching today's video. If you liked today's video, go ahead and drop $1 on that Cash App for us, hit the like button, share it with your friends who are Power fans, and subscribe for more content such as this. This is Rudy P. Magic of Rudy P. Magic Beats, and have a blessed one until the next one. Peace, y'all.
Ready, magic.